Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome please welcome the welcoming speech by our Dean, Faculty of Languages and Arts, Dr. Trisakti. Please, time is yours.
Ya, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Yang saya hormati Ketua Jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris. Yang saya hormati narasumber seminar Profesor Dr. Susanto MPD. Yang saya hormati di sini ada Pak Moderator, Bapak Ahmad Munir, Bapak Ibu dosen jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris, Bapak Ibu dan saudara peserta webinar yang berbahagia. Puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala pada pagi hari ini kita bisa berkumpul bersama-sama di sini dalam kegiatan webinar yang luar biasa yang digagas oleh jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris. Kegiatan webinar seperti ini memang saat ini marak dilakukan di berbagai instansi, ya. Karena memang kegiatan webinar ini bisa menjawab tantangan yang sedang kita hadapi dalam mendapatkan solusi apa yang bisa kita lakukan untuk bisa menjalankan tugas kita, kewajiban kita untuk menjalankan Tridharma perguruan tinggi. Bapak, Ibu, dan saudara peserta webinar yang berbahagia, pada pagi ini adalah sesi seminar yang ketiga, kalau tidak salah ya, seminar yang ketiga. Dari 9 seminar yang dirancang oleh jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris. Kegiatan seperti ini memang harus senantiasa dilakukan ya untuk jurusan-jurusan karena memang manfaat dari kegiatan seperti ini adalah luar biasa ya. Karena bisa membuka wawasan bagi siapapun, bagi Bapak Ibu peserta seminar ya, tentang bagaimana apa yang kita lakukan, yang bisa kita lakukan dalam masa-masa seperti ini. Bapak Ibu yang berbahagia, ya, tentunya harapan kami dengan kegiatan seminar pada pagi hari ini dan mungkin untuk selanjutnya nanti seminar ini bisa terselenggara dengan lancar, dengan baik, dan tentunya bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Terima kasih kepada panitia, penyelenggara, kepada jurusan yang telah mempunyai inisiatif dengan inovasi di dalam masa pandemi ini. Mungkin itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Semoga seminar ini bisa berjalan dengan lancar, sukses, bermanfaat bagi kita semua. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Ibu Dekan, Dr. Trisakti. Before we start this session, I would like to read to you the rules of today's webinar. The first is that all the participants should mute all their microphone so that you don't interfere with the presentation. During the talk, you can ask questions with a format, ask and then your name and affiliation and question in the chat room of this Zoom, and also in the chat room of YouTube. For your information, we are now live on YouTube, our channel, English department channel, and I believe that the link to YouTube has been sent to your Telegram. For your information, the materials for the presentation, today's seminar, will be shared in the end of the seminar. Please do not ask to get the PowerPoints for the materials in the chat room, because it's been very clear that they will be shared with you in the end of the webinar. I should remind you that the exit ticket is the only is only for the registered participants, and that's where you get your certificate. So there is no way that you complain to us. Remember that your complaint will be responded only within 3 hours after the end of the seminar, so not more than that. So we need you to click the exit ticket and fill in with the correct information, and of course you need to check your email that to make sure that you got the certificate on time. Make sure that the names and email address are correctly typed when you click the exit ticket. Yeah. So that's the rule. Let's go to the main session of today. Yeah, the third series of the webinar, Action Research During the Pandemic, by Professor Dr. Susanto. So Professor Dr. Susanto has been in our English department for so long, more than 30 years, since 1982, and has got his professorship in 2010. So he's been very senior professor in our department, and he's written 8 books on English language teaching. One of the books is PTK, Penelitian Tindakan Kelas. So please welcome Professor Dr. Susanto's presentation.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Yeah. Good morning. Teaser, please.
Sorry?
There will be teaser. Yeah,
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. Unfortunately, we cannot play Mr. Susanto teaser due to technical error. So please go proceed with the next schedule. Thank you.
Okay. So, Professor Dr. Susanto, please welcome Professor Dr. Susanto. Professor Susanto, time is yours, Pak.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, our topic today is about action research. Action research is actually an umbrella term. So there is the so-called school action research, and there is also classroom action research. And because of this pandemic, now we have one more branch of action research, which is called OLL action research, or online action research. Yeah. First of all, I'd like you to pay attention to these 4 points. That action research is not experimental. I'd like to remember you this point. And then the second one is, action research has no pre-test and post-test. But we all know that practices outside there are often give a pre-test before the research and a post-test before the research. Another point is that action research focuses on process, not product. And the only data collection technique used is observation. So I'd like you to keep these 4 points. In this presentation, I'd like to compare experimental research and action research. Okay. So we are going to talk about action research in relation to experimental research. Yeah, so these are the practices of researchers in action research. Yeah. The inappropriate ones are that action research is implemented like experimental research. And there is always a pre-test and post-test. And it's believed to be product research. But actually, yeah, experimental research and action research have different designs. That's what we are going to talk about later. Yeah. And this is a process research, not product research. The focus is on the process, not on the product. Let's move to the next point. Yeah, here we have 7 designs of experimental research. So there is pre-experimental designs, and there is also through experimental designs. In the pre-experimental designs, we have 1 group pre-test, post-test design, and then 2 groups static design. Yeah, we'll see later what the designs are like. Yeah. And there are other 5 designs: 2 groups, randomized subjects, post-test only design. I think from the name of this, you understand that in this design, yeah, we employ 2 groups. And then there is only a post-test. And then the 4th design is 2 groups, randomized matched subjects, post-test only design. Randomized groups, pre-test, post-test design, Solomon 3 group design, and then Solomon 4 group design. Okay. So there are 7 different designs. And most of us, if not all, yeah, always implement action research by using 1 group pre-test, post-test design. Now let's look at the design. Let's wait for the examples. It doesn't work. Will you please wait? Sorry, I cannot show the wait. Yeah, sorry, I cannot show you the design. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah. So here, the examples of the designs of each that we have so far studied. Yeah. So the first of all is the one group pre-test, post-test design. Yeah. So in this design, yeah, there is only one group. The group is given a pre-test, and then a treatment is given, and at the end of the experiment, a post-test is given. The second design is two-group static design. Yeah? So in this design, one group, the so-called experimental group, and the other group, control group, yeah, are employed. The treatment is given only to the experimental group. Then they are given post-test.
Excuse me, Prof. Santo. Will you please share your screen, Pak?
I think it's
yeah.
It's
because you are opening another file, you should stop share screening the first, and then you start share screen on the file. Yeah. Click.
Wait.
Yeah. Yes, this one. It works.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two pre-experimental designs. The next is two groups randomized and so on. Yeah, I don't think we need to discuss this in detail because this is not our concern this morning. Yeah. So let's come back to the previous one. Oh, a moment. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is an example of experimental research. Yeah. So the research problem is, do teachers working in a team conduct a better teaching learning process in online learning than those working individually? So in an experimental research, we'd like to investigate causal relationship, whether if a certain treatment is given, then there is a change in the group. Yeah. So in the this design, a pretest is given, and then a treatment is given, and at the end of it, a post-test is given. So this is what most people do in action research, which I think is not appropriate. Yeah, another example. Do students who participate in a web platform learning with a video call learn better than those who learn without a video call? Yeah. So in experimental research, the point is that we add or we, modify the phenomena. So in experimental research, we move from something that does not exist to something that is added. So that's the so-called treatment, like this one. Yeah. So probably today, at this time, yeah, there is no teacher, yeah, who use this platform, web platform, yeah, by using a video call. And now we can make then investigation whether if a video call is added, then the learning teaching process will be different. Okay. Yeah. After we know what experimental research is, now let's move to action research during the pandemic. Yeah. We know that probably almost all schools today in the world, yeah, do not conduct face-to-face learning. Yeah. Even universities, yeah, in some countries, in many countries, yeah, use this one. Yeah. This is what is happening today. Yeah. So if you compare face-to-face learning and online learning, these are what we have. A group of students in one place, in one classroom. But during the pandemic, students are at different places, like what we are doing now. The teaching learning process in face-to-face learning, yeah, teachers face students. But now, I'm as a teacher, for example, yeah, face a laptop. The lesson plan is normal in a face-to-face learning. But in OLL learning, the lesson plan may be simpler, simplified. It's quite possible. And then in face-to-face learning, students with learning materials nearby. The students face materials. The students have materials in their tables. But in online learning, we don't know. We are not sure. Do they really face their materials or not? And we all realize that teacher-student communication is simple. So there are two-way communication. Teacher-student, student-teacher, student-student, student-to-group. But in online learning, communication, interactions are complicated. Interaction is probably relatively smooth. But in online learning, we have to do more efforts. We cannot ask a particular student to say something, to ask something, or to do something. We can also monitor our students in face-to-face learning easily. We can go around the class, we can talk to students individually. We can help them write something, ask something, and so on. But in online learning, we have to do more efforts. Again, because we do not face them. We are not in face-to-face condition. the next point is that, yeah, we all realize that our control over our students is easy, but not in the online learning. Almost impossible, I'd like to say that. Yeah. Assessment can be done comprehensively in face-to-face learning. We can check the progress, we can ask the difficulties, we can help them with their difficulties, and so on, giving advices, motivation. These are all assessment actually. But in online learning, partial, if not impossible. And if we do assessment in the online learning, we're wondering whether it works well. Yeah. So now let's compare experimental research and action research. Yeah. So again, as I said before, that experimental research is product research. The focus of the research is the end of the program. But action research is a process research. Action research is not interested in the product. Remember that point, yeah? Action research is not interested in the product, but it's interested on the process, the teaching process, the learning process. So we are not talking about achievement. That's why there is no test. Second point is that research problem in experimental research is proposed or initiated by the researcher. So if I like to conduct experimental research, then I have my own problem. I'd like to investigate whether modification or manipulation to a certain phenomena will result on something better. But in action research, the research problem already exists in the classroom. It emerges from the classroom. So a researcher cannot bring his or her problem to the classroom. The classroom is there, and the problem is there already. Yeah. And then the setting or the place of the research. Yeah. Experimental research can be conducted in a classroom the researcher wants it to be. In SMP, SMA, elementary school, university, depending on the problem that the researcher is going to investigate. But in action research, yeah, the problem is investigated in the classroom where the problem wants to be solved. Yeah. So this is called on-the-spot research. The problem and the research are done in the same classroom. In experimental research, a researcher can work by himself, by herself. So there is no collaboration that is needed. Yeah. So a single researcher is possible. But in action research, there must be researcher-teacher collaboration. The researcher needs a partner to conduct research. So at least 2 researchers are involved in action research. But in experimental research, 1 researcher is enough. And the last point is that ER is investigation of cause-effect relationship. If something is given or something is added to a phenomena, does it have any effect? This is causal relationship. But in action research, it's an attempt to improve teaching learning process. Again, it's an attempt to improve teaching learning process. And there is no treatment, but rather modification to the phenomena. So if in experimental research, we move from nothing to something, in action research, we move from something that exists to something that is modified. So we don't change the phenomena, but rather improve the phenomena. Yeah, these are the stages in action research. I think everybody knows that there are 4 stages: planning, implementing, observing, and reflecting. That's one cycle. Yeah. In the picture there, I use dotted arrow, reflecting to planning, because one cycle is actually enough if the result is satisfying. So action research is not necessarily conducted in 2 cycles or 3 cycles. So one cycle is enough. We will see later. Yeah. And then before action research is conducted, we have to do the so-called preliminary study. Yeah, we'll see later. Yeah, what is done in the preliminary study: planning, implementing, observing, and reflecting. So there are activities or strategies that have to be done in each stage. Yeah. Now, before we move to the explanation of the stages, yeah, there are at least 3 different types of action research, yeah, in which it begins from the initiator. Okay. So the initiator of an action research can be a lecturer, university lecturer. But this university lecturer must work with a partner, a collaborator. This is not an ordinary partner, but this must be a partner that has a problem. So the teacher who is invited to join must be a teacher that has a problem. And then we can have 1 or 2 more members. So 2 or 3. The second type is the initiator is the teacher. This teacher is the problem owner. She has a problem. He has a problem. But since he or she cannot work by herself, yeah, she needs to have a teacher, a partner, a colleague from the same school, probably. Yeah, teacher who has a problem, and a teacher will become the partner. And the next is a university student. Yeah. A university student is like a lecturer. He or she has no problem because he has no class. So in that case, the student has to look for a partner who has a problem. And then she or he can involve 2 more researchers. So we will see later the functions of the members. Why do we need to have 1 or 2 more researchers? Yeah, so let me repeat again that the initiator can be a lecturer, university lecturer, a teacher who has a problem, and university student. But the collaborators must be a teacher who has a problem. Except the second one. Yeah. Yeah. We talked before that there is a stage called preliminary study. So this preliminary study is conducted by the initiator. Yeah. So somebody who wants to conduct action research, yeah, must conduct a preliminary study. The goal is to identify some potential problems in a targeted class, to look for a problem, to identify a problem. So there are strategies, ways of how to conduct a preliminary study. First of all, ask for the lesson plan. Yeah. After we decide that we'd like to conduct action research in a particular classroom, then we have to ask for the lesson plan to the teacher. We examine the lesson plan, we study the lesson plan. And then based on the lesson plan, we can interview the teacher. In this pandemic season, let's call it, yeah, we can interview the teacher by phone, online. Yeah, we cannot conduct it face-to-face. Yeah. Also interview the students. Again, this must be done online. What about observing the teaching learning process? Yeah, because now many teachers teach online, then probably we can ask for permission to observe the teaching learning process. So after we decide a certain targeted teacher, then we can discuss with her whether it is possible to monitor the teaching learning process. If not possible, then we can observe the recorded teaching learning process. Or mail questionnaires can be used. We send questionnaires asking for their problems. And then last but not least, exchanging the ideas with the teacher, exchanging the potential problems with the teacher. So in the preliminary study, we might have several potential problems. And then based on these several problems, we decide on one problem and we discuss it with the teacher. That's a preliminary study. Yeah, example. Yeah. Case detected and then possible action. Yeah. For example, we find, based on our preliminary study, that many students found difficulties in understanding the lesson. Just one simple example. This probably happens everywhere. Now, what are our possible actions? Yeah? Again, we have already examined the lesson plan. Then we study the standard competence, the TKD. We might find that the lesson plan that was used was too complicated in terms of the standard competence. Now the TKD can be simplified, can be changed into several simpler lesson plan. All the materials that are used in the teaching learning process are simplified, or we find materials that are easier. Remember that in this pandemic, many students are less motivated, under stress condition, and so on. Yeah, so we are not supposed to give them heavier material. Make them happy, make them motivated. Yeah. So it's better for us to teach something simpler, but they can absorb the knowledge and skill, rather than giving them difficult materials, but they get nothing. So these ideas can be applied in the pandemic. Second case, there are only very few active students. It's quite possible. This does not only happen in the elementary school, secondary school, or high schools. Even in the level of S1 and S2, very few students are passive. Moreover, in this online learning. So in that case, then we have to identify or reformulate the indicators. Probably we do not teach lots and HOTS at the same time, but we teach only HOTS. Remembering, understanding. After that, understanding, remembering, understanding, and then applying. So do it step by step. So before we move to HOTS, we have to make sure that the students are already good in LOTS, low order thinking skills. Only later, after the students have mastered the LOTS, then we can move to the next step. Analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Yeah. And then there is a note here. Yeah. So we have to check the LP, the lesson plan. Yeah. Every time we come to a certain case, we have to check whether the LP is really too difficult. It's complicated. And then we formulate an action. What do we have to do for this? And then revising the lesson plan. Yeah, we'll see later the use of the revised lesson plan. The next step is planning. Yeah, we are already in the action research cycle now. This is what we are doing. Yeah. So first of all, the planning step. Yeah. All the researchers are involved at this step. The initiator, the collaborator, and the members or the member. So the three members are working together to revise the lesson plan and prepare data collection techniques. Again, revising the lesson plan and preparing the data collection technique. The techniques, the strategies. Yeah, so based on a particular research problem, revising parts of the lesson plan that have caused the problem. Again, is it because of the KD, because of the indicators, because of the materials, because the langkah-langkah pembelajaran, or because of the assessment? So there are some causes that might have affected the teaching learning process. Yeah. So first of all, the initiator must start with a proposed revised lesson plan. After that, discuss the revised lesson plan with the teacher and the partner. Yeah. So it must be made sure that the lesson plan is understood, accepted, and can be implemented by the teacher, because it's the teacher who has to conduct the research. Remember that a few years ago, yeah, when there is a student, as one student, who conducted an excellent research, this student implement the teaching learning process. This is not correct. Yeah. So in excellent research, it's the teacher who has the problem, who conducts the teaching learning process. Yeah. So this is the importance of making the teacher fully understand the lesson plan. And then discuss how to conduct the teaching learning process. Yeah. So every step, every component must be fully understood, clearly understood. And then determining data collection technique use. Yeah? As I said before, that actually the only data collection technique is observation. Remember that in our circle before, there is no test, but rather planning, implementation, observation, and then reflection. So there is no reason for us to use a test, pre-test and post-test. And then discussing how to apply the techniques. So there are at least three, yeah, we talk about it later on, ya, lembar pengamatan, ya, di observation sheet. The implementation. Yeah, as I said before, that the implementation is conducted by the teacher, the problem owner. So an S1 student, an S2 student who conduct action research must not teach in the action research class. Otherwise, there will be changes in the student's behavior. Yeah. So the student's behavior must not be affected by the presence of a strange teacher, a new teacher. No, the strategies. So the teacher must apply the revised lesson plan consistently. It must be followed consistently. Probably what needs to be done is that the speed of the teaching learning process is reduced. And a more intensive and comprehensive process assessment. I know it's difficult to conduct this assessment. It's difficult to talk to students. It's difficult to give advices. It's difficult to check what they do, and so on. So that's why it's a good idea that in the pandemic, yeah, the teaching is conducted by a teaching team, not a single teacher, but rather at least 2 teachers are involved in the teaching learning process. Yeah. One teacher actively teaches, the other teacher monitors the teaching learning process by using a video call or just an audio call, yeah, to make sure that every student participates actively. And then more two-way teacher-students communication than one-way teacher dominating. I think we all agree that, yeah, I myself do it, yeah, that we during the OLL we teacher dominate the class. Now, in this case, then we have now to reduce our involvement in the teaching learning process. Then by using various types of feedback, whole class, we talk to the whole class, small group probably. Yeah, it's probably difficult to have a small group in online learning, because they all work individually. So what we can do is individual feedback, either written or oral. This is what the teacher has to do in the implementation stage. Observation. This is done by the initiator and the member. So I said before that actually 2 researchers are enough. But it's a good idea if we have 3 researchers. So the addition of one member is to get involved in the data collection technique. Remember that if observation is done only by one person, it tends to be subjective. But if 2 observers are involved, the data collected tend to be objective. So actually, the more observers, the better. But if many observers are involved, then the classroom will be, or the session will be rame, right? Very rame. So we must avoid the presence or the involvement of more and more observers. And then what do they have to do during the observation? They have to fill the observation sheets. There are the so-called unstructured format, like checklists or using Likert scale. Checklist means yes or no, true or false. Skills are using numbers, 5 dash, 4 good, 3 enough, 4 poor, and then 5 very poor. That's original number. Yeah, let's look at the notes. This is very important. Observation is the only data collection technique in action research. You know why? Because it's process research. So it's observation that is most suitable for that. Interview can be conducted after the teaching learning process. So an interview can be used only as triangulation to check whether the data that we get from the observation is, what is it, like what is being interviewed. So the interview is used only for triangulation, but that's not necessary. So again, if our data we get from observation are not enough, then we may conduct an interview. But observation is enough. There is no test at all. Remember, there is no test at all. Reflection. Reflection is actually data analysis. So the researchers are all involved in this, the initiator, the collaborator, and the member, to analyze data for results and conclusion. If the data are quantitative, so this data are obtained from structured observation, checklist or skills, then calculation is done. only calculating percentage, looking at the percentage, which one is most often less and the least. If data are qualitative, first of all, the data must be classified. By classification, we mean that the data are, various. Not all the data are relevant to the research problem. So in that case, we have to classify and select data which can be used to answer the research problem. So we classify. After we classify, we might find some data that are not relevant. So we reduce the data. Classify, let's say there are 10 classifications. But among the 10, in fact, there are only 7 groups of data that are relevant. So we reduce them. We delete the irrelevant data. And then the available data are compared to look for the similarities. So in the qualitative data, we analyze data inductively, from small things to something big. And the last step is interpreting the data. So the data must be given meaning in relation to the research problem. One important point is that if the data we collect are quantitative, we do the so-called after data collection analysis. So the analysis after the teaching learning process is completed, that is called after data collection analysis. But if the data are qualitative, we have two steps of analysis: in the field analysis and after data collection analysis. So in the unstructured field observation, we have to write field notes that we make during the observation. So in the field notes, there is a part called descriptive materials. And there is a part that is called reflective materials. So descriptive materials are everything that we see, everything that we hear. So we write down everything exactly like what is happening. But reflective materials are our analysis. So during the observation, using unstructured technique, we already do in the field analysis. So the field notes contain data as well as analysis. Later, after the observation is completed, we might or we have to look back again at the data and then do the second analysis to make sure that the analysis that we write during the observation are consistent and so on. So again, there are two steps: in the field analysis and after data collection analysis. One important point I'd like to say is that data collection technique in action research is conducted only during the teaching learning process. If the lesson plan, for example, says that waktu pembelajaran is 2 kali 40 menit, then the observation is done only 2 kali 40 menit. So it's completely wrong if the data collection analysis is conducted until 3 months. Yeah, so we have talked about the stages. Yeah. This is the cycle. So in cycle 1, yeah, in the planning stage, yeah, the researcher revised the lesson plan. Let's call it lesson plan number 1. And this lesson plan is implemented in the classroom. Yeah. So implementation, observation, and reflection in the field. This is if the data are qualitative. Yeah. So the teacher, the researcher, and the member work together actually. Yeah. The teacher, the problem owner, conduct the teaching learning process. Yeah. In a normal action research, yeah, while the members, yeah, conduct observation. During the teaching learning process, I mean during the online learning process, we can do this by again monitoring the teaching learning process online, whether by video call or by phone call, audio call. And then after that, reflection after data collection. Again, this is qualitative. Yeah? But if it's quantitative, then there is only reflection after data collection. So there is no analysis in the field. Now, based on the result of the analysis, yeah, we ask, yeah, whether the results are satisfactory or not. If changes have happened, then the results are satisfactory, yeah, then we write the reports. So we have only one cycle. So again, it is possible to conduct action research only in one cycle, not necessarily 2. Unless the results are not satisfactory. If the results are not satisfactory, then we conduct the second cycle. The lesson plan number 1 is revised into lesson plan number 2. But let me remind you that the problem should remain the same. So you cannot conduct a second cycle with a different research problem. Meaning that the problem that you conduct in the first cycle cannot be solved, yeah, with the revised lesson plan number 1. So because they are not successful, it's not successful, then now we revise the lesson plan in order to investigate or solve the second, the same problem, previous problem. Again, we follow the stages: planning, implementation, reflection, and conclusion. If the results are satisfactory, we report the result. If not, we can go on with the third cycle. I'd like to remind you that if possible, or you have to try as hard as possible, that action research is conducted only in one cycle, simply because we should not bother the curriculum, the program, and so on. And remember that if students are taught the same thing for several times, they'll get bored. Yeah. So do it at least 2 cycles, never 3, never 4, or sepanjang tahun. Yeah. So one cycle is wise rather than 2. Yeah, this is what I said before. Yeah. This is the action research design, and this one is the one group pre-test, post-test design, which are actually different. So again, action research is not experimental research. We do not introduce something new to the class. We call it treatment, but rather we modify apa yang sudah ada di kelas. So do not introduce something new, but rather we modify so that the teaching learning process improves. Yeah, you might have questions about this later. Thank you, Pak Munir. I think we can go out to the proposal later if you think it's necessary. Thank you, Pak Munir.
Thank you, Prasanto. I was waiting for the host to unmute me. You know. Yeah, thank you for the brief presentation, Prof. Santo, on the basis of action research. There are a few questions here that need our attention. First of all, from here, Dita Chris, I think one of your former students. So the questions of the researcher and teacher, yeah, can a researcher become the teacher in action research? Prof. Santo, are you with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can the researcher, you mentioned of 3 different schemes, you know, initiator, researcher as initiator, teacher as initiator, and
Problem owner.
Yeah, problem owner as the initiator. But can the researcher, yeah, not the problem owner, yeah, become the teacher, yeah, in the action research?
No. No. Because it will affect the teaching learning process situation.
Yeah.
So the teaching learning process must be made as similar as the previous teaching learning process. The presence of a new teacher will affect. So the changes will not because of the lesson plan, but because of the presence of the new teacher.
Yeah, because so this new person will affect the naturalness of the situation in the classroom. Yeah. So
like I said before, that members of the research must not be more than 2.
Yeah. So there's also a similar question here by Dian Buspa from Universitas Negeri Malang here. If you mentioned about university students, you know, I think that's the third scheme here. University students who also participate or collaborate in the action research. So does it mean that these university students cannot be the teacher, only can only observe the teacher? Prof. Santo? Are you with? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, I think there's a technical mishap here. Prof. Santo unintentionally out of the Zoom. We'll be waiting for him to join in again. So the questions that have been asked by our participants, Budita, Chris, and Budian Puspa, have asked the roles of researchers, either university lecturers or university students who join the action research. And Prof. Santo has answered very clearly that they, both the university lecturers and university students, cannot interfere with the context, with the natural setting of the classroom. So they cannot become the teacher. So we'll be waiting for, has Prof. Santo joined us? Okay.
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
So not yet. So okay, just let me read other questions, and just reading and then trying to get the similar vein. So, another questions, I think Prof. Santo has answered very clearly on the differences between extent research and experimental research by Bu Sri Wahyuni. I think it was very clear that experimental research is not extent research, in that experimental research brings something new into the classroom, while extent research maintains the existing context, including the teachers, students, and so on. Yeah, there is a change here in the way that the lesson is delivered to the students. Oh, of course, this depends on the problems that is raised, that is investigated in the action research. From Bu Wahyu, from Unipa, she asked about differences between AR action research and CAR classroom action research. While waiting for Prof. Santo, but I think everyone knows here that there is an additional word C before AR here. If you refer to books on action research, a famous one in the area of English language teaching, you wouldn't find any books entitled CAR, but AR. For example, Burns and Burns to the 2010, for example, AR action research in ELT, for example, there is no word C. Why? Because AR can be implemented in all different contexts, depending on the context. In the context of classroom, for example, the AR becomes CAR. In the context of school, AR becomes SAR. In the context of for example, informal education becomes informal education action research. Yeah, so once again, context gives a specific name for the AR later. Yeah. So, but in Indonesia, you are exposed to single phrase, CAR, classroom action research. Yeah. I'm waiting also for the participants to join.
Hello,
Maybe.
Mr. Munir.
Yes, please.
Pak Slamet and also Putri are also here. Perhaps
Yeah.
they can be the panelists of this
Yeah.
seminar while waiting for Pak Santo. Pak
Yeah.
Slamet and Bu Prativi perhaps can help us to answer some questions.
Yeah, of course, please help Prof. Santo back into Zoom, okay? Yep. Please join us, Pak Slamet.
Okay.
And Bu Prativi.
Okay.
Yeah, please help me answer some questions here. Yeah. I think
Thank you.
There is also a question which is hard to answer. Yeah. Please define observation here in the OLL, online learning. So what do we mean by observation here? Yeah. So this is very hard to answer. So because physically I don't observe Pak Slamet there, but I saw Pak Slamet, but I don't observe Pak Slamet. Yeah.
Of course not.
And now, given the screen, Pak Slamet, yeah, in the gallery, we see faces, yeah, in the Zoom, for example. How can we observe? Yeah.
Observe.
Yeah. So, because the heart of the AR action research is observation. Yeah. Maybe you can share your view on this question.
Okay. I would like to, add some information concerning with Pak Munir's comments on the action research and classroom action research. I totally agree with you, Pak Munir, and also Prof. Santo. That reading from many resources, actually, the term or the common or the generic term is action research. But we find here in Indonesia is narrowed down into only classroom research. But the whole the huge umbrella actually is action research. And Pak Santo, as well as Pak Munir, have already explained that, action research is not only in classroom, but also in many fields. Like in the factory, for example, I always give, for example, Honda. Honda motorcycles is actually developed from the action research. That the core. Hello, Pak Santo. Okay, the core is the same, but we add some more, additional thing to make it, perfect and developed. That is the action research in the company, and it happens in many fields. Like in another factory also, that the production, for example, is not quite efficient. So what should the company do then to make it the production is efficient?
Yeah, Pak Slamet, the key is for improvement. Yeah. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Pak Santo is here. Hello, Pak Santo.
Hello. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pak Santo. Okay.
Silakan.
Glad to have you back here, Pak Santo. Yeah. So, Pak Santo, there is a question here that I have already asked Pak Slamet too, to share. There is a question on the definition of observation here, Pak Taslim, from somewhere in Gorontalo. So,
I cannot listen clearly.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Not very clearly.
Not very clearly.
I changed into my smartphone.
Okay. Oh, now you are using your smartphone. Pak Santo, definition of observation in the OLL. So how can we define observation in OLL? What do you mean by observing online learning? How can we do that? That's the question from Pak Taslim. How can we?
So as I said before, as I said before, that we have to use teacher team or team teacher. Yeah. So we cannot. We ideally should not conduct the teaching and learning process during the pandemic alone, but we must ask for somebody as partner to conduct the teaching and learning process.
Yeah, but how can we observe? What do we mean by observe here? If like what we are doing now, you saw me, I saw you. Is this what we mean by observation, or are there other ways to record what we are doing?
Yeah, individual observation. We can conduct a video call or probably audio call to the participant. You get my point?
Yeah, audio. But what about if the context is class like this? We see, there are 221 participants in our Zoom at the moment webinar.
Yeah.
So if we want to have a class observation, how can we do that?
Yeah, we have to work quickly to classify the the subjects. Say, for example, only female students or male students, or students who are from the CT, students who are from out of the CT. Yeah, so we limit the subjects of the observation. Otherwise, it's impossible to do. Time is limited. Remember that the time of the observation is only selama jam pelajaran. So we have to limit the subjects. Or we select.
Is it possible, if we also rely on recording, because our Zoom is now also being recorded, for example?
That's what I said before. Yeah. So beside ongoing.
We lost signal again.
Yeah,
oh yeah. We just lost your signal, but can you repeat?
Really?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now. Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah. So I read my slides that observation can be done towards ongoing online teaching learning process or recorded teaching learning process. Yeah. So it's a good idea if the teaching learning process is always conducted, always recorded, so that we can look back at what has been done.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is a solution. That's good then. Yeah. There's also what is it? A question by Busanti on the definition of process here. What do you mean by processes here? And how can we measure processes? Processes only actions? Are they also, for example, what is it? What the students, what is it? I don't know, Pak Taslim here. Or motivation. So
yeah. So
processes.
First of all, let's start for product. What we mean by product is usually measured by tests. So product is measured by a test, but process is observed by observation. Is measured by observation. What is being observed is the behavior, the verbal and non-verbal behavior of the students. How they say something, what they say, how much they say. This is verbal behavior. Non-verbal behavior is probably whether they are sleeping or not, whether they are interested in the lesson or not, whether they are active or not. Yeah. So these behaviors must be described, if possible, using field notes. If not, then we use a checklist, but we have to have a list of the behaviors that can be observed. For example, asking questions, answering questions, giving comment, raising hands, and so on. Yeah. So the job of the researcher is to make instruments which are comprehensive, which can represent the whole behavior, both verbal and non-verbal behavior.
Yeah. So some of your statements, for example, raising hands and faces, the facial changes, for example, are hard to see in, for example, in online situation like this. But is there any other ways that we can record this, for example, raising hand and facial changes in Pasando?
Yeah. First of all, if we have the recorded teaching learning process, then we can observe from the recording. If recording is impossible, then probably we have to do interviews. We ask questions. Yeah? So the questions are, given in the form of oral, using the observation sheet. Well, Pak Munir, we are in a, very limited condition. Yeah. So it's impossible for us to have a perfect, comprehensive action research. So that's why in the action research, we have to look a simple problem, not a complicated problem. Remember that minor changes in action research are already considered as a success. So again, the success of action research does not depend on pre-test and post-test. So dari mana kita perubahannya? So the changes are seen from the behaviors, the verbal behavior as well as the non-verbal behavior. That's the essence of action research. Minor changes are already considered as a success. Not necessarily changing from a score of 16 to a score of 90. No, we are not talking about product, but we are talking about process.
So, but
that's the point.
Yeah, but most of teachers who conduct CAR, classroom asset research, from the proposal that we know some that they have submitted, for example, for PPK, most of them are offering or asking question, on the improvement in terms of numbers, Prof. Santo. Don't you think this is one of the problems that we have? I mean, the teachers.
Yeah, so again, action research is not experimental research. Yeah. So we are not working with product.
Yeah.
We can use numbers, but not test scores. The numbers that we get are nominal data, ya tidak 1, 2, or scales 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sangat baik until sangat jelek.
Yeah.
So these are all indicate process.
Yeah. Yeah, Professor Santo, I think we should go on to the sample of proposal so that we can, you can show us the points where we need to pay attention to. Can you share the proposal with us, Pak? And then give some explanations for that?
Yeah, okay, wait. Let me connect myself to the laptop. Yeah?
The committee, have you got the file?
Oh yeah, probably the committee can show the proposal, yeah, Pak Swab. Yeah?
Yeah.
Will you show us the proposal, Pak Swab? I can monitor it from here.
Yeah, yeah. Can you help us, who's? Sorry.
We're still working on that, sir. Please
Okay,
have
sip, yeah.
wait
Okay.
for a minute.
Okay. Because from the proposal we can see for real the example of parts that processes of action research. Can you find it, Bu Laili, or should I share?
I'm still working on my laptop as.
So okay, let me share then. Let me share my screen. Is that possible?
Oh yeah. Yes, please do so, sir.
Because I've got the file, Bang Santo. Okay. Yeah. Pak Santo?
Yeah, I can open my laptop again.
But I have shared my screen if you want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see it?
Not yet. Wait.
Not yet.
Yeah, okay. I can see the. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the template.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Wait. Okay. Set enough. Yeah, I can open the computer again. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you want to join with your computer?
No. Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop share.
Pak Munir, you can share your screen, Pak, proposal.
Pak Santo wants to join, and then.
Oh, Pak Santo wants to share.
Yeah. He wants to join. Yeah, I think he's on now.
Yeah, Pak Santo, yes.
Halo, Prof. Santo. Yeah. Yep. Yes, please, Prasanto. We can't hear you.
Okay, Prof. Santo. Pak Munir.
Yes.
Prof. Santo, are you with me? Are you with us, Pak Santo?
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, please.
Yeah, so the template is divided into two columns. Yeah, the left and the right column contain the same subtopic. Yeah. So here we have latar belakang, and then pertanyaan penelitian, hipotesis kerja, yeah, tujuan, and then chapter 2, chapter 3, rancangan penelitian, latar penelitian, yeah, and so on. Yeah. And then I gave you some guides. What you have to write in the latar belakang masalah. Yeah. So for example ya, awali bagian ini dengan menyoroti kata kunci yang terdapat di dalam judul PTK yang Anda ajukan. Yeah. So for example, if the title is partisipasi peserta didik di dalam mata pelajaran membaca dengan what? Metode top down yang diperbaiki. Ya. Then the key phrase of the title is metode top down. Ya. So explain directly what metode top down is. Ya. And then deskripsikan fakta dari pengamatan terhadap KBM. Awali deskripsi dengan menyebutkan nama mata pelajaran, TKD, jenjang kelas, jumlah siswa, and so on. So write down everything here. This is the template. So you are guided by instructions. After you already complete the whole thing, you can delete the left column. Yeah, make it big like this. Now you have already the proposal. That's it. Okay, questions about this?
Yep.
Question about this proposal? Probably it's important here if you look at the chapter 3. Yeah. It's important for us to note that in the rancangan penelitian, yeah, the researcher must explain langkah-langkah untuk menjawab pertanyaan penelitian. Yeah. 4 langkah di kegiatan dalam siklus. Yeah. So in the planning, for example, yeah, what is done? Yeah. In the implementation, what is done, and so on. Yeah. This is the research procedure. Yeah. This one. Dan jelaskan siklus PTK. Ya. Deskripsikan dengan rinci kegiatan-kegiatan yang telah dilakukan. Apa yang telah dilakukan dalam tahap perencanaan, ya. Apa yang akan dalam tahap implementasi, and so on. Ya. This is what I said before. Jangan katakan bahwa penelitian akan dilakukan dalam 2 atau 3 siklus. Karena peneliti belum tahu dalam berapa siklus penelitian akan dilaksanakan. Ya. So never say that you are going to conduct the research in 2 or 3 cycles. But if in fact later after you conduct step 1, cycle 1, and then you find that you need to conduct second cycle, then you report it in the research report, in the laporan penelitian. Yeah. But in the proposal, you only say that you conducted only in just 1 cycle. Okay. Another important point is, yeah, you can read it later. This is what I'd like you to this is the format usulan PTK. This one is in English. Yeah. You can read it later. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Bab 4. Yeah. This is a very important point, yeah, in the report. Yeah. Many scripts, yeah, or many people, yeah, write the research procedure in chapter 4. Yeah. So in chapter 4, the researcher write down the planning, the implementation, the observation, and the reflection in chapter 4. So planning, implementation, observation, and reflection belong to methodology. So they must be reported in chapter 3, not chapter 4. Chapter 4 must be completed with the answers of the research question. Yeah. For example, yeah, if the research question is, bagaimana perubahan kemampuan peserta didik bertanya di dalam mata pelajaran membaca dengan penggunaan metode top-down yang diperbaiki, then in chapter 4, there must be this title, perubahan kemampuan peserta didik bertanya di dalam mata pelajaran membaca. Yeah. So 4.1 must answer research question number 1. And then research question number 2, bagaimana perubahan kemampuan peserta didik menjawab pertanyaan guru di dalam mata pelajaran metode membaca dengan penggunaan metode top down yang diperbaiki. Then di bab 4, there must be a title, perubahan membaca peserta. But in many scripts and in many action research reports, the chapter 4 contains procedures. Research questions are not answered. Yeah. So what this is. Yeah. Yeah. This one. Yeah. So it's explained here. Prosedur penelitian. This is the cycles are reported in the chapter 3, prosedur penelitian. Deskripsi tentang siklus dikembangkan sesuai dengan yang dilakukan peneliti. Ya. Simpulannya memuaskan, penelitian dihentikan. ya, penjelasan peneliti tentang prosedur penelitian dibuat hanya sejauh ini, so there is one cycle. Ya. Simpulan tidak memuaskan, laporkan dan jelaskan apa penyebabnya. Kemudian jelaskan bagaimana siklus 2 dilakukan dan laporkan hasilnya. So in this, ya, the second revised lesson plan must be attached, must be reported. So proposal and laporan penelitian are different. But many students write only chapter 4 and 5 without changing chapter 3 especially. Yeah. So in the proposal, chapter 3 contains research planning, what will be done. But in the report, it must contain what has been done. It's written in the future tense, kalimat future. Here is written in the past tense or present perfect. That's all, Pak Munir.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Prof. Santo, for your explanation on the transformation between proposal and research report, action research report. You know, many questions that come to us here, that have been addressed to you, you know, have been concerned about observation. For example, on the reliability of the observation in online. I think by Bu Zenita, others ask, for example, Pak Bambang, ask on the observation of the asynchronous, asynchronous online. Asynchronous is like, for example, like Google Classroom, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a platform, yeah. So the activities are there, which we are not live, yeah. You can respond to the activities later, for example. How can we get data, for example, in such a class? You know, is it possible, for example, to, you know, to get observation data by printing, you know, all the, for example, the chats over there, the forum and so on. So will you, so most of them are concerned about observation. Will you please address these questions?
Yeah. So again, I said before that ideally the observers are at least 2. 3 is okay, yeah. Because subjectivity or reliability of the data will be reduced to a minimum if we have 2 or 3 researchers. Yeah. So that's why I said before that at least have 3 members in the actual research. Yeah. Two of them are, sorry.
2 teachers, 1, what, 3. Yeah. Who are they? The 3.
The teacher who teaches, right? And then the researcher and the additional research member. So 2 members will become the observers.
Yeah.
So having 2 researchers are better than 1 researcher, because reliability will be attained if more researchers are involved. Remember that objectivity is the result of many subjectivities.
Yeah. What about that one, the platform, the asynchronous one?
That's it. We are in a very, limited situation. Yeah. So you can use live, online, or offline. Yeah. So the record did. Yeah. And the chats, yeah, during the, what is it? Can
some
be
platform,
as data. Yeah.
Yes, some
Yeah.
platform have forum, for example,
That's
that they can
correct.
be downloaded later.
Yeah, they can be used as data because the verbal behavior can be obtained from that those chats. So instead of interviewing, we can look at the, what is it, chats. From the chats, like what is happening now, yeah. By looking at the chats, yeah, we will be able to see how active the participants are. Yeah. You get my point?
Yeah. So, Pak Santo, I think you are muted here. What happens? We can't hear you. You are unintentionally touched. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now we can hear you now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to use as many resources as possible. Chatting, right? And then video call, audio call. Yeah. So all these things can be considered as observation.
Yeah.
Observing the chats. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Prof. Santo, for your answers. I think we have come to the end of this session. It's now 11:55. Yeah. We have to wrap up today's webinar. Yeah. So, will you make the conclusion for this webinar, Prof. Santo?
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, that action research is not experimental research. Yeah. There must be no pre-test and no post-test. The problem is one that is initiated by classroom teacher. The problem comes from a classroom and the investigation is conducted in the same classroom.
And can also be online class.
Yeah, can be online. Yeah. So basically they are the same, but only the data collection methods are different. Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Santo, for your insightful webinar today. And I believe that the participants' questions have been answered in our question and answer session. Yeah. So
Mbak Munir, you're welcome.
Yeah. So will you take questions addressed to you, for later, giving answers maybe in writing?
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
They can have the file, right?
Yep. Yeah.
File. And if they're interested in my book, share them to them.
Yes. Yes. Please, Prof. Santo, tell us your book. Yeah. Tell us about your book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your book.
I think there is a soft file, right?
Yeah.
If they're interested, they can.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the audience, all the participants, as I said in the introduction of this webinar, Prof. Susanto has written 8 books. One of the books is PTK. I think the latest was on HOTS, if I'm mistaken, Prof. Susanto, yeah. HOTS and LOTS, if I'm mistaken. What's the title of your latest book?
LOTS dan OTS dalam kurikulum 2013.
Oh, okay, yeah, LOTS dan HOTS dalam kurikulum 2013. And they are available online already, Prof. Santo?
They are soft copy, right? They can have them.
Okay, so yes, I think if you are interested to get the soft copies, will you please chat the committee, and we'll of course, with the permission of Rosanto, we can send you the soft copies. Okay. Okay, thank you, all the participants. I would like to remind you that you need to click on the exit tickets in the chat rooms already. Once again, you need to be very careful in clicking the exit tickets, because that's the only way that you get your e-certificate. Make sure that you type the correct name. You also type the correct email address, yeah, because the link to the exit ticket is only for 1 hour. So the link lasts for 1 hour. 1 hour, remember, 1 hour. So by 1 p.m. the link will be deleted. Yeah. And as soon as you click on the link and you finish the messages over there, please check your email address to see if the e-certificate has been sent to your email, because we will not take any complaints after 3 p.m. So you are only given 3 hours to finish everything and get everything done. Yeah. After 3 p.m., I'm sorry, you cannot complain to us. Yeah. So I just need to remind you that this is the third series of the 9 series of webinar conducted by English Department, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. So let me invite you to the next webinar on the 22nd of July. Yeah. I was taken, the title is Learner Autonomy during the Pandemic. Dr. Andrej Siroski will be the presenter for that from University of York, UK. All right, that's all for now. I'm Ahmad Munir. I'm very pleased to be with you. And once again, thank you, Prof. Santo, for your presentation and your time, and for your answers, and for the free book, yeah, that you will share with the participants. Okay, I'll see you. See you on the 22nd of July with the 4th series of this webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.